I like to start early because when we start talking, I feel like the best material comes out in the first couple of minutes. And it's like, oh, all this stuff is coming out. And it's like, so hey, everyone, Dr. Kennard here with, of course, Tobin Templeman.
Hello, rock
Yeah,
and roll, people.
rock and roll. Yeah. So how you doing this morning, Tobin?
I'm doing well. I'm ready to take on the day. I'm excited to see what comes out of this after party, to
Yeah,
hear
it's
what
all.
we're going to be talking about. Um, yeah,
Yeah, what's up, 420?
Sammy.
Oh, hey boys. Apparently, what's up is the fucking. Well, it's more like what's down. So Australia has been ranked the the bottom of the list in terms of climate action in the UN members. The bottom, Andy. The bottom.
That's pretty hard considering the people that you're competing with.
And you know why? Coal.
Coal, yeah. There's a lot of coal in Australia.
And so that report you were just talking about, I was reading just before your show.
Oh, really? So that's great. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all over the news here. Well, in terms of
Simply secular. Like, I don't know. I mean, for me, it sounds good, but Dave says, but from your mic might be a little hot. Might be a little loud.
Okay.
I don't know
It does sound like you're clipping.
Okay.
Does it?
Yeah,
Is that any better?
To me too.
Hey, what's up, Tom?
Does that? Yeah. Hello.
Is that better, people?
Yeah,
Is
you're
that
not
good?
clipping now.
Okay.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. Well, we're also guilty of asking the UN to leave out certain facts from this report, and what we wanted left out was references to coal having any effect on the climate.
Oh, right.
Rage.
What's up, Brady?
Yeah, but can you believe the gall?
Yeah, that's amazing, dude. I mean, what the heck is going on? Isn't Australia, like, don't they have like one of those places that like the coal started burning in a cave and it like messed up an area or something?
There are some underground coal fires that are still going on, and they're like in old coal mines. They're going on for decades at this point, from what I understand. We talked about it one time before. I think there's and maybe simply Secular Dave, who's still in the chat, might know. I believe there's one in Canada. There has to be one here in the States. I don't know if there's one in Australia.
Yeah, I'm not aware of one here, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we've got so much. There'd have to be, surely.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, our government just does not want to let go. I understand why. I get it. We we're sitting on a big country full of coal, and we have to stop using it. But
yeah, it's addiction. That's what it is. The governments, these institutions are addicted to cheap energy, right? To coal, to stuff. People are making money off it. They've been making money off of it for centuries at this point, and it's tough to let go.
I mean, we're seeing the products of it here in the United States with this whole debate over infrastructure. For the last 100 years, we have built our consumer societies based on fossil fuels, from our homes to our roads to everything. There was a comment in the side chat of your show, Andy, and the guy was half right, half wrong, because he was saying your graphic was, produced by the oil industry, and concrete produces more gases than anything. It's like you're almost there, but what you're doing is just joining a narrative against the actual problem, which is climate change and what we have to do do to solve it. We know that concrete is dangerous, and we have ways to solve it, but it's expensive. We have to repave everything with the new concrete. We have to take down all of our homes and rebuild them with the new technology that we have to combat climate change. We have to stop using fossil fuels, and we have to stop this consumer society. We understand all of these things, but it's very expensive, and we can't even come to terms on spending the $3 trillion we need just to start the infrastructure here in America.
It's expensive for the people.
We're more than willing to spend.
People, not for them.
Well,
they're making a bunch of money off of it.
Yeah, we're more than willing to spend $7.5 trillion on the military for the next 10 years, but we're not willing to spend $3 trillion on starting to save the planet.
And let's face it, that 7 trillion whatever dollars, that is just a guess. You know it's going to be more because once the conflict.
Yeah, they placate to coal, as Sammy's talking about here in the States. Joe Manchin owns a coal company. West Virginia, 3% of their economy is based on coal, and yet they fearmonger to these people.
Yes.
To go against their interest. And now we have Joe Manchin stopping any freaking progress that we can possibly make.
Yeah. And just to bounce off what you're saying, Rage, what you implied is that it's important to understand the right wing talking points. So even when they're trying to say something that sounds kind of leftish, it's like, you know what you're arguing against. It's just bullshit. That's what it is.
You actually stated something that our Prime Minister said word for word, Andy, and it rung so loud in my head when you said it. He said, affordable energy is the way of Australia's future, or our financial future. It's where we'll get stability from. In other words, coal, maybe some gas. But it sounds like, he's saying affordable energy, and those are positive buzzwords.
So,
affordable energy. That just means fucking coal.
What about the migration crisis that's going to happen, right? When all these Polynesian countries go underwater, there are already countries becoming unlivable out in the Pacific.
Do you know, when I searched this story that we're discussing, do you know how many results popped up of Australia asked the UN not to put this in the report? 2016, asked the UN, don't please leave out the Polynesian islands going under due to climate change. They're trying to ask the UN to say it's not due to climate change, or at least don't actively say that it is due to climate change.
And I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it makes sense to go, oh, well, Portland cement is is worse than this or that. It's the combination of it all is what is causing the effect, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
All of it needs to be throttled, regulated, and
exactly. It's man's overall
and or
impact.
Stop.
Humanity impacts the world in more ways than just the food we eat, or in more ways than just the cars we drive. It's our overall impact. And people are so tuned here in the States, at least, not to listen to science, or they'll listen to James Tour, PhD and brilliant chemist, but they'll listen to him when it comes to astronomy and astrology. They are wired now here in the States to automatically go against the science when we should be listening to the science. The science is telling us what we need to do. Yeah. It's just we can't get it passed because nobody wants to spend the money, because these oligarchs want to keep their bottom lines.
Yep. And they're the same people who are going to tell you that we should close our, once the immigration crisis blows up, they'll be the same ones to tell you we should shut our borders down, that we shouldn't be giving money out to these third world countries. They did it to themselves, right? Same people.
Yeah, I mean, this is an issue that gets me hot. I mean, I'm cleaning today. I'm like, because it's hard for me to join the after parties nowadays because, it's I'm back to working full-time nights, so I have to do most of my work during the day. But yeah, I'm like, nope, I got to join in the after party. We're talking climate change. And it gets me so pissed off that this is a no-brainer. We should have started fixing this 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And instead we're arguing about, what can we cut so Joe Manchin will sign on? No, it's time to start calling these people. Why don't Democrats put the narrative that Republicans are stopping you from getting daycare, stopping you from getting college for 2 years? I mean, they're stopping you from living a better level of life. But Democrats don't do that. We've got to take the high road. I am sick of it.
I've talked about this before, but I want to reiterate my personal theory about why Republicans are mean and Democrats aren't as mean. It is because Republicans come from red states, and red states are just nasty places by and large. They have poor social safety nets, and that creates a certain incentive to be mean to people.
Yeah, we have that saying down here. I know it's known even up north that there's this southern hospitality, but that shit will wear out real quick. We'll get ugly real fucking quick.
Yeah, and there's among sociologists, there's something called honor culture, right? And honor culture is where people, it's all about respect and about how quickly they're going to perceive people to be insulting them and escalating into physical violence. And those cultures exist when they're, once again, people don't feel safe, right? When people don't feel safe, culturally speaking, this kind of traditions take root in, and you can see it amongst the red state. And I think that's one of the real reasons why Republican politicians have a tendency to be just nastier than blue state people. It's except for misanthropes like Rage and people, people like myself, that see that's like, we're just getting creamed. We're just getting creamed by the right.
Well, and I think it's the result of having the open tent that we have as well. We are accepting of all peoples, and we want to have the arguments. And if you notice, the right, they're not. They're all in line. It's all groupthink. It's all the same thought. And Democrats don't do that. And it is very frustrating because while we have the better policy ideas, we can't agree on anything.
I can't tell you how many times I've gone on other people's shows and they start complaining, excuse me, because I want to be respectful to the people who do ask me on their shows. I don't want to bite the hand that feeds me, which I want to do. But I'm like, it's good to critique each other. It's good to critique Democrats, but at least this is how I spend most of my time. I spend most of my time attacking the fascists. Call me crazy, right? And maybe that's the best use of my time. Maybe it's the best use of your time too. I don't know, but yeah.
But you're speaking to something that is so pervasive with the left. They want to play the good guy. So they're out there critiquing each other and, oh, look how good we are. We can we'll pick at each other. That's great. No one gives a fuck anymore in this point in time. We need to be on the offensive. Yeah. We need to be actively against the right.
Yeah, it's strange. I just recently was having a disagreement with somebody online, and I think it was another atheist. And we're talking about approaches, and I was saying that, I like to take a Socratic, and kind of like a street epistemology kind of route. And this person was the complete opposite. And they were calling me some names. They were talking some shit to me. But it has made me start thinking like, because y'all are saying that we're being we got too much of a light touch. I need to be more aggressive. I don't know.
I mean, well, I just think on some issues it's too vitally important for us to play the middle ground any longer when it comes to climate change. We need to be aggressive. We need to be aggressive trying to pass this infrastructure bill. And it's not playing politics. It's not, we're going to lose the midterms. We're probably going to lose the midterms anyway. We need to pass it just so we can pass something that gets us started, right?
and I want to talk about this kind of radical honesty, right? We talked about it before on this channel, but back to what you were saying, Tobin. You can be radically honest with the Socratic method. You can just be. I think what a lot of Democrats would rather do, and a lot of agnostics and a lot of atheists, they just don't want to talk. They just don't want to confront. And you can be honest with people in a radical way and confront bad ideas, right? Using the Socratic method, using comedy, whatever, and still be, a radical. You can do those. You can do those things. You can be assertive and take it to the other team using the Socratic method or comedy, a variety of different methods. Yeah, but what we don't want to be is to be silent. Right.
Yeah, kind of what I'm saying is it's happening in my comments section all day yesterday and today. When I put out the stream that I'm gonna step back a bit, I made this statement, and I made this statement quite a bit, that I'm really depressed with the state of humanity, right? And I probably went about it, I gave examples of it, crowds chanting F Joe Biden but like when you. And CJ Cox is in my comment section and calling me a hypocrite and calling me all of this. And for one, like, CJ, you're a sovereign citizen. You're literally one of these extremists that can't see that about themselves. But for two, it's like, we were always critical of Donald Trump from the very beginning because we had reason to be. Like 3 days before he was elected, we had the whole, grab him by the, So like we have, and most of us, including myself, went out of our way at those times when we could to give Donald Trump praise. When he pulled the troops out of Syria, I'm anti-war. I'm for that. He could have done it better to where there wasn't an atrocity with the Kurds there. But their hypocrisy, they talk so much about Joe Biden and Afghanistan. It's like, don't you even remember Syria? Don't you remember how you guys all fell in line behind Donald Trump? It's like this groupthink that they have the shortest memories in the history of the world, and they can't forget how they were just a year and a half ago compared to how they are now. And the other thing that CJ Cox doesn't get is, like, when you're talking about being depressed, depression doesn't care about the facts. Like, it doesn't.
Well, just talking, pivoting over to mental health, when you're in this space, especially with a format that you have, Rage, I don't know how you do it, to tell you the truth, about keeping your sanity with everying else going on. And then
I did it good for a while, but I failed utterly. And that's why I'm stepping back, is because my mental health is such crap right now.
Well, having been doing content creation, and I'm relatively new on YouTube. I've only been doing it seriously for like a year or so, a little bit over a year. It's a grind. Just being a content creator in general, it's a grind. And dotting your I's and crossing your T's, but getting into altercations with people, it's rough. And it isn't just, I've heard this from many other people before, from either bloggers or podcasters or YouTubers. It's a hard lift doing this.
Yeah, and he doesn't understand. And I understand, like, the people on the right that follow Donald Trump will never, they're just going to see me as this lefty crying and whatever. But no, like, it's literally a difference in holding Trump accountable for his words and his actions, as opposed to this Let's Go Brandon movement, where you have 11-year-olds going to accept their football award saying, "Let's go Brandon." Like, no, this culture of ignorance has permeated our society and our youth. And this is the most dangerous thing we are facing today, right there with climate change, is this culture of ignorance that's permeating our society.
Yeah, and yeah.
Damn. Yep. I agree with that.
100% crypto.
Yeah.
Sorry, the climate change thing has me hot, so I'm coming in a little hot today.
And I'm gonna let I was gonna point out the pun earlier, but now if I let it go, I'm gonna point it out now about climate change.
Well, to offer, I wished I'd have had a look a bit more into it actually before the show, but I guess to put a positive spin on things, I seen a report yesterday where it was by a journalist who points out the fact that Australian media is owned by the right, and we only get, reported from the right. They were just joking and laughing how the right media in Australia has done a 180 and is now saying, why have we left climate action so late? And we're in the race for existence, and like they've turned on our government because our government's going under. All these, dodgy corruption and things coming to light. But
that's a great point.
So
that's a great point, Sammy. And it's happening all over the world, not just in Australia. The right has a lockdown on news and media. Here in the United States, over 80% of our local news is owned by the Murdochs. Yeah. Like 80% of the local news being fed to our homes, families at dinner watching their local news to get the weather, has a right-wing slant.
There was a Hidden Brain podcast episode that talked about why American news media is so warped, why it's so negative. And I'm going to boil it down. I'm going to boil all the research down. It's because there's no strong, non-for-profit news agency out there. Sure, we have NPR, but it isn't like the BBC, right? Mm-hmm. It isn't like the CBC in Canada. And so when you have a news market primarily focused on for-profit organizations, and I know this is going to come as no surprise to anyone, things go poorly.
So we need to start a non-profit journalist company.
Well, it is to
well, what I take from that is we need to wage war against the oligarchs. I mean, we need to get real about this. The most glaring name on that list of the article that you read today, Andy, was China, right? Lefties, we got to stop holding up China as this example of utilization of green energy, because yes, they have utilized it more than any other country, but they're also one of the biggest polluters of the world. And they're right there in the mix with these countries trying to do damage to climate change in our efforts to clean up the planet. Like we have got to be aware of what's really going on instead of just offering the talking points, because they will use that against us.
Sure. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It's interesting. An article I was reading earlier, looking into all this stuff, was explaining how, and you're right, it's the oligarchs, because our federal government just wants to push this coal, right? And old energy, whereas at our state level, our state governments are actually leading the world in so much green technology. The state I live in, New South Wales, is building the world's largest battery for storing naturally gained energy, solar, wind, and such. Why on a state level are we doing that, but our federal government is still building coal power stations?
Sammy, I have an answer for you. I have an answer, and you may not like it. You talk about how important green energy is, but I have to tell you something. All energy matters. I'm sorry. That was like the shittiest joke.
Even that sludge they're pumping into your rivers, all energy matters for real.
Matters. I'm sorry, shittiest joke I've said for a long time. I'm gonna cancel myself for a second.
Thanks for reminding me. I don't know how this reminds me of this, but it does. Quick reminder: Halloween is coming up. Do not purchase your candies to give away to kids from Nestle. They steal waters from Native American peoples.
There you go. I like that, Rage. Thank you. All energies matter. That's right. That's Granny.
Oh, that's great.
John Hudson's been chasing dogs over the last hour. Man, that's tough.
Is that his new kung fu training? Like how they make him chase the chickens and shit.
Oh right, yeah, you gotta chase just like in Rocky, right? In the original Rocky movie, that one.
Rocky. I said kung fu. I'm thinking right. Rocky, of course.
I think in some Shaolin temples you have to be able to box chickens, right? I don't know.
Poor chickens.
Yeah. What do they do? What's wrong? They didn't do anything wrong.
All right, so like to your first news story of the day, my favorite one. So how does he know that they're parasites and and these eggs aren't going to hatch and make you some superhuman superhero? This might be where we get our power.
I was like synthetic at that, a synthetic parasite. That's the part that like really. So are you saying that we can create life, right? Because a parasite is life, and if we made a synthetic parasite, that would be life. I don't know. I'm not super educated in these kind of things. I don't know.
It made me want to go and find, because he's like, you got to watch yesterday's episode, and so now I want to go watch that episode.
And that's what and then it's like, wow, this and this is like, wow, it's like a Christian telling you to go read the Bible to support the Bible. Instead, it's one big circle jerk. That's what it is.
And also, just to show the level of intelligence behind this conspiracy, what a parasite by definition lives off the life force of another creature, so sucks your blood or something. What does this parasite suck?
Yes.
What does it do?
It sucks God away.
Yeah, that's what it does. or it makes you maybe homosexual. I mean, that isn't that what a lot of evangelical men are afraid of?
Well, that's the result of having God sucked away anyway, Andy.
Well, I read
lack of God equals homosexuality.
Romans, and that's Bible, everyone. That's just Bible. If you don't know the verse in Romans, it is the Paul is very straightforward that when you lose God, men and women will have unnatural pleasures for the same sex, basically. That's biblical, my friend.
Yeah,
I mean, it really speaks to just the state of Christianity, right? So for the last 50 years, evangelicals have been creating this army of Christ, quiverful, go out, fill your quivers, have as many children you can, raise them into Christ, infiltrate pop culture, infiltrate politics. And then they're like, don't take the vaccine that's going to save you. It's like their messaging here is a bit off. It's like you're going against like the last 50 years of what you've been trying to do to take the country back.
And the right has really shot themselves in the foot. It's important to point this out. We would have President Donald J. Trump's second term of office if he didn't bungle the COVID crisis. Because God knows, my fictitious God knows, Joe Biden did not beat Donald Trump. Donald Trump shot himself in the dick repeatedly. And
and if we can't show some kind of criminality here, man, we're going to have to, I mean, he's going to run.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to deal with him again.
And I think, people are saying, well, this Colin Powell thing is going to come and bite. And like, no, it just goes once again to show that they're in hook, line, and sinker. Even their old heroes like Colin Powell, who, I think gets a bad rap for the Iraq thing. He was doing the bidding of Bush and Cheney, but should be blamed for that. But at the same time, when you're smearing the man, he's freshly in the ground, you're smearing his name. And all of the people that used to think him to be a great man is willing to go along with you. I don't know.
I don't know if you've ever read or who has read Animal Farm here. I think I have my copy kicking around.
Oh yeah, I've read it. Definitely.
But it is like you were a hero of the movement, but now there's new leadership. So fuck you.
Yep. Man, if you haven't read Animal Farm, you guys got to go read that. It was George Orwell, right?
Orwell, yeah. Definitely worth it. It's a quick read.
I'm not sure if I have.
Yeah. It's a good read, and it's a bit of a metaphor for the Russian Revolution there. Yeah. But yeah,
I've never read it, but it's been talked about that much that I feel like I've read it.
Cartoon. There's also a cartoon out there too of the movie. That's interesting, worth your time too.
And I'd actually seen that before I ever heard about the book,
right.
Which was bizarre.
So I'm not going to give any of it away because I could just start talking about 2 legs good, 4 legs bad, or but I'm not.
Oh man. It reminds me of our current society for sure.
Oh no, I gotta go read it now. Yeah, that's gonna be my homework today.
Cool. John Hudson, I did not take a look at the home yet, and I need to. I'll do that later on today. Thank you for reminding me. You might find it hard to believe that in my ADHD brain, as I'm like looking at different glittery things throughout the day, I get distracted. Especially with a job too, having less time on my hands. But yeah, I'll check out the home because I'm interested. Definitely. What's up, Kevin Chaos?
Oh, Kevin.
Glad to see that you're still into the chaos, sir.
All right, so Andy, my progressive friend, did you see Nina Turner on CNN? I think it was the day before yesterday. It might have been yesterday.
I did not know.
She check it out, man. She brought the bombs. She brought the bombs.
Good. Yeah. That's there needs to be more of that. In terms of messaging. Once again, the left is always at a disadvantage because the right has the oligarchs, and the oligarchs are just feeding people money to say certain things. And this is another thing on the left why we suck so much at times, right? In terms of messaging, is that we don't have anyone shelling.
They control the wealth, right? Am I wrong?
No. So
yeah, and a good chunk of at least our established party, they're right there on the teat of the oligarchs as well. So I mean that's a major problem.
Yeah. And just to give an example of how easy it is to spin something. So Fox, I think it's Fox. You have Fox in America. That's the really right wing network, isn't it?
Well, it used to be. It used to be. Now we have OAN and we have a whole new level of crazy now.
Well, like Tucker Carlson, that's Fox.
Yes, Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, it might have even been him.
Q himself is.
He was saying he was having a go at Biden, who was making fun of Fox because they he said, they've got a double vax policy. Yet they're so anti-vax rhetoric. And Tucker Carlson obviously came straight on and said, that is a flat out lie. We do not have a double vax policy. And that's where he left it, right? Yep. Called Joe Biden a liar, and that's where he leaves it. And so people are left to decide, well, who's telling the truth, Tucker Carlson or Joe Biden? The truth is, Fox has a double vax policy, and if you do not get double vaxxed, you have to be tested. Yeah. Ready for this? Daily.
Sure.
Which is more than Biden's suggested weekly. Yeah. So their policy is worse than Biden's. But he spun it that not only is it not worse, but that it's a lie.
We have seen,
and that's how they do it.
We've seen so many times these right wingers will say, or these personalities will spout out news, quote unquote news, and then say, well, we're just for entertainment purposes only. And this is what Alex Jones used in court. This is what Tucker Carlson's lawyers have used in court, telling people who want to sue them is that, you can't really take us seriously because we're not news.
Sean Hannity plays the same card.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys know this. Ron Watkins, who is Q, is running for Congress in Arizona.
I saw that, dude. Yeah, Ron Watkins. I think that is sad and hilarious at the same time.
If he wins, I'm just like done. I'm done.
Well, I don't know what seat. I don't know what seat I know that Arizona is turning blue, in the process of going blue. But I don't know what seat he's running for.
Oh, I had the article from the Daily Beast right here. I hate the Daily anything, but let me see. Where is it? It's a battleground. It's not really telling me where. Yeah. It just goes into all of his crazy QAnon stuff.
There is a tendency for Republicans in these battleground districts.
It's expected to be made more conservative during redistricting the district he's going for.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the stories I really haven't covered, and that's and I really should, is talking about the gerrymandering and the redistricting, because you're going to get more Republican districts that way. because of the insane policy, the insane system that we have here in the States.
Yeah, I'm a bit
parties in charge of that.
Isn't this redistricting, if I could pronounce it? Isn't that like a result of democratic victories in these states? But now I'm like worried about. I don't think it's going to go well. I mean, we were trying to eliminate gerrymandering, right?
This is the reason why state government is so important. Is that and why you need to vote for your state representatives and your state senators, not just for your federal, representatives, because they are the ones in charge of redistricting your state every few years. And if you don't pay attention to what's going on in your state, then you're going to be, if you're a progressive, if you're a humanist, if you're an atheist, then you're going to be screwed.
Yeah, which I mean, we're our numbers as atheists, like I just don't see us ever really being represented. But definitely as progressives,
yeah. We do have the Free Thought Caucus that has started like a year or two ago. The Free Thought Caucus.
Yeah.
If we can get support behind that, we do have a voice inside of the government that does represent people who think like us.
True enough. There are 14 representatives in the House that are part of the Free Thought Caucus. I'm just did a quick Google search, and none in the Senate. No senators are part of the Free Thought Caucus, but we got 14, and which is better than none. Yeah,
I mean, it's a start. Yeah, but I mean, of those 14, how many are actually godless?
Yeah, I mean, here's this is my personal stance on that, is that I'm willing to work with a theist if they are working towards progressive values. I mean,
me too.
They're
without a doubt.
But
like just when it comes to being godless, I don't see us really ever. I mean, right? It's still political, pretty much political suicide to admit you're an atheist. I think one atheist has one office, and I believe. I could be wrong. I believe she was Native American, but I could be wrong.
There was someone out in California. I forget his name. He was a federal representative. He retired a number of years ago, and there's like a smattering of them around the country on the state level.
And I fear that because Australia, I don't know the actual statistics, but I know that we're over half of our population tick the don't believe in a God box.
Yes.
So when the population, the majority is godless, yet we do not have I think like yous, we have like one politician in all of politics who's an out atheist.
Yeah.
I think the politicians are going to be the last ones to go kicking and screaming.
Well, this is the problem, and once again, these small minorities, small groups of people who are well funded and organized, they typically steer policy for the majority of people. So if atheists do not register to vote and do not vote for secular values, we're just going to get steamrolled, and you see that over and over again.
Without a doubt, especially like when you have a National Prayer Caucus with so much power and influence. I think it just recently came out that the Grahams are the big money behind that. I mean, that should scare everybody, not just atheist. That should scare any like true American that religion has its hands that far deeply into our government. But no, I totally agree. We should, I think a lot of us are voting along progressive lines, but at the same time, a lot of atheists vote along libertarian lines, and it's I think a big result of that whole libertarian movement from about 10 years ago here on YouTube.
Sure. And well, that's the thing, is that it is just for the sake of, and let's face it, that libertarian movement was more misogyny than anything else.
Oh yeah, it was all anti-feminism.
It was more of a reaction against the Me Too movement and about bro dudes wanting to rail against feminists, basically.
Boobs in video games. That's what it was. Huge.
And it was all, and this is once again the profit motive, creating, warping the market. They got reinforced by it, And so they just went for content that was more misogynistic. And they call themselves libertarians, but what there are is just whores. I mean, and I don't want to insult sex workers, but they're just looking for clicks and income. And you could see it. I'm not going to mention the Amazing Atheist, but I guess I'll say the Amazing Atheist.
I was thinking the name, man. I was thinking it.
Yeah. The thing is about the Amazing Atheist, and I just want to say that, is that I listened to his Joe Rogan interview from years ago, and the guy basically says, yeah, my dad's a grifter. My dad was a grifter, and maybe I am too. I don't know. You decide. It's like, you fucking I mean, yeah. And that just tells you about Joe Rogan too at the same time.
Yeah, about the state of our society, really. I mean, people don't have passion anymore. Not really. I mean, some of us do, but a good chunk of people, it's all about that profit motive.
I'm sorry, Tubman. I think I interrupted you with my
I probably did.
I don't know. I think that's.
Oh man, it's all right. It's gonna happen. And I kind of forgot what I was gonna say. I started zoning in on what Rage was saying.
That's the perfect way to remind me it's time to smoke a bowl.
Already there.
Nice.
But yeah,
go ahead, Tobin. I don't want to take it away from you again.
Actually, I was just man, yeah, we do need to be passionate about it. I do want to. It does matter to me. I do want to make a difference. I know I'm just one person in a vast sea of peoples, but I do want to be part of this, and I do want to help.
Yeah.
And I think, Andy, it was something you said to me the other day. It's just resonated with me, and it's all I've thought about since. And it speaks to what you're saying, Tobin, about what can you do. And I'm always thinking, what the hell can we do? It's so overwhelming. Citizen groups. We need citizen groups.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's the only answer when we need to be the ones policing.
Yeah.
And not these stupid fucking police auditors or frauditors, as I like to call them, on YouTube. Those dickheads who just go and annoy police for the sake of it. I don't believe that. I think that everyone should be, you see a police interacting, film it.
Yeah.
Just film it. Don't get in the way. Don't be a smart ass, but film it. They need to be accountable. Yeah. But don't be a fuckwit while you're doing it.
You put that on a t-shirt.
I mean, if I had the time, if I'm not on my way to work or anything, I automatically will kind of stop. Just make sure that nobody's getting fucked with. Doesn't matter your color, doesn't matter anything. It's just I'm at that point now, especially here where I live, that you almost have to look out for your fellow citizens here, because police will take advantage of your ass.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And was it last night's story? Fuck me. About, unless there's been a precedent set, there's nothing you can do when but we're not going to set any precedents.
Well, and I think when it comes to me and Maynard, we're talking about trying to do something here in Michigan, like the ACA does down in Austin, and I think that's vitally important for for atheists like us, because a lot of us are like me. We're stuck in our homes. We don't really have anybody around us to really have community with outside of what we find here on the internet. And I think more groups come together on a statewide level, even if it's just once a year, but bringing people together so you can make connections, so you can make real life friends and really get to meet people that think along the same lines as you do. So you're not kind of stuck in this isolation that I think so many atheists are stuck in, because most aren't narcissists like us. They're not going to come on YouTube just to hear the sound of their voice. They're going to be stuck in their isolation. And I try to think about those people with every video that I make, and I got away from it for a while, but I think I'm going to reach out to Maynard and let's try to do that here in Michigan, because that's one thing. whatever criticisms we might have of individuals or policy, that's one thing that the ACA has done remarkably well, is bring a community together in one of the most conservative states in the freaking world, probably.
Yeah, indeed. I think the trick is to have these to keep groups going, is to have them focused on particular goals, right? Because they can, having been part of different in-person groups, looking at your belly button does not create a cohesive group over time.
Right.
You've got to have a very clear and cohesive goal. The goal of this group is, say, the separation of church and state.
Right.
So whatever your political views or religious views, whatever, like, you could be a spiritual atheist if you want, but as long as we're here to get rid of this, or to encourage the separation of church and state, for example.
Yeah, a true separation would be so nice, because I don't think we've ever really had a true separation here in the United States of America.
Yeah, it started to get really messed up right in the 50s, right? Am I talking straight?
Oh yeah, and now it's worse than ever, because Trump got rid of what was it, the I can't remember the name of it now, but it was some obscure law that kept pastors from endorsing politics from behind the lectern. Yeah. Andy, do you know the Johnson?
It's not the Johnson Amendment. That's what you're talking about, brother.
Yeah,
it's not the Hatch Act. It's the Johnson Amendment.
Yeah, the Johnson Amendment. Yeah, they that was Mike Pence's big project as vice president, was getting rid of that. So now preachers can literally tell their flock who to freaking vote for. I mean, it's we live in dangerous times. We live in dangerous times.
But you know what? We can do that here. We can preach it from our pulpit, like, legally. I mean, they're still doing it, but we have that power. We, as our communities, build up, we can endorse, because we're private individuals.
And that's true, but there are power dynamics. So, like, when people go into a church, they're not going into just some ordinary building. They're to them, it's the literal house of God. They're stepping into a supernatural segment of this world, and those power dynamics change. I'll preach Tom Blue in the face that you should vote progressive. You should vote for real people and put real people in office, not politicians. But ultimately, I just don't have that same power dynamic to where people are going to be influenced much at all, unless I come with fact. To where a preacher, all they has to say is, God wants you to vote. Go vote for Donald Trump. It's one of the reasons they got rid of the Johnson Amendment, because there's so much influence there.
Scapegoats. I just want to bounce off something. If you're not safe in your community, it is wise to be prudent about what you say and how you act. I know that what I do is, I'm able to do what I do because I've been able to craft a life where I don't have to worry about my employer, really, and that I look the way I do, and so there's a certain amount of privilege with that, and that there is I choose to exercise my privilege in a way to put forth a progressive message. But I know people who aren't in that position, so I feel for you.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, it's still a stigma in this society that can do real harm to you and your reputation if you are honest about who you are.
Yeah.
Well, see, and I hate how Christians like to say that atheism is a religion. Like they say, evolution is a religion. It's our religion.
Man, at one point I started thinking, I don't know. I just wanted to chime in on that just a little bit. I started arguing that, atheists are a religion, and my God is all the unknowns. So we should use the scientific method to reach God.
Yes, that's great.
But
that's probably even better than what I was thinking. I just wanted to start a church, the Atheist Church, or Church of Atheism. And because you need to worship a deity, it would be the great atheismo.
The atheism. I like that.
We would all worship the great atheismo and get charitable status while we're at it.
Yeah.
Well, there
Why
are
shouldn't
some.
we?
There are some. I put my foot in my mouth with Matt Powell because he talked about this thing. Atheism is a religion, and then atheists have their own churches. I'm like, I never heard of an atheist church before. Never even would have dreamed it possible. And I'm like, there's no such thing as atheist churches, and yeah, there's a few out there. I actually know somebody that goes to one, so it's like,
Wow.
I had to retract. Yep, Matt Powell was right about a thing, but. It still weirds me out a little bit because these atheist churches, at least the ones that I've seen now, some of them I'm sure are very secular and don't follow the traditional Sunday going to church norms, but a lot of these churches do. And I find that it's almost like, denial. Like, oh, I'm an atheist, but I still need that church fixed. And it's like, that's a bit weird.
I find it funny that Christians who can't even define what their own God is, who can't define what the Trinity is, right? One of their core beliefs are going to start arguing about the definition of words. It's like, atheists may use church in quotes, but is it misogynistic? Is it hierarchical? Is it there to prevent free thinking? Absolutely not. So they may call themselves a fucking church, but it is not like the fucking cesspool that you find yourself in.
Well, yeah, and even the ones that go along those Sunday church lines and they have the pastor or whatever, it is a community coming together of godless peoples, and it is a non-theist ceremony. So it's this huge difference than what they're doing in their religious services.
And I love the fact that it's also a further kick in the teeth to them, because the way they would see it is, it's just Satan now stealing our word church. Like,
they stole our rainbow and now they're stealing our word church.
If you asked me the other day, Andy, if I had a lot of money, what would I do with it if I was to get, and that would be one of the things for sure that I would do for society, is start these little community centers. Whether they're called a church or whatever, it doesn't really I don't find that important. It's the values and what we find important, and helping
you're exactly right, Tobin. You've just pointed something out, that the only thing that the churches have that is giving them this charitable status is the fact that they worship a deity. It is claimed that the charity comes because they will they do something for the community, whatever. Then why cannot an atheist group start a community-based group, but simply because they don't worship a god, they can't register as
We can make these groups.
I'm for getting rid of tax exempt status for churches. I wouldn't really want to join them. But like, I've had this argument with a lot of Christians, and they always bring this up. We're the leading charity givers and blah, blah, blah. So for 50, we'll call it 1,500 years, you've had this major institution raising gods know how much money off of this story that you've been promoting for the last 1,500 years. And you have all these institutions in power all across the world that have institutional funds and resources available just for this so-called charity work, which is usually just a reason for them to evangelize to third world nations and stuff like that. So atheism, the ability to speak freely is something still very new to society. We have to build our institutions just like they did. So we're starting from behind. So it's very easy for the theists to say, well, look at all we do. Well, yeah, because for the longest time, you silenced us with death.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
And there are groups there. We do have, the ACA does have food drives and stuff like that. There are secular communities who are doing good without God.
I can't remember the name of the charity, but there is an atheist secular charity that's like the third leading charity in the world now. We are getting there, but it's just going to take time, and honestly, like I said, most of their charity work isn't charity work at all. It's perpetuating their religion.
Yeah, the majority of Christians charitable giving is to their church, to run their church, to just be a church. It's not actually working in the community. It's to pay their pastor, to heat and cool their building. It's like just donating to run your own clubhouse isn't charity. It's just paying
That's a great point.
Clubhouse.
Yep.
And even when, like, for instance, with the Jehovah's Witnesses, when they do relief charity, when there's been natural disasters and whatnot, it is only to other Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yes. Yeah.
So you could have a witness and a so-called worldly person living side by side. They'll come in and fix the Jehovah's Witnesses' house for them and leave the person next door homeless.
Wow.
Dale McGowan, who's been on the channel a bunch of times and is the, he wrote Atheism for Dummies, and he's in charge of the non-religious channel on Pathos. He created the Foundation Beyond Belief charity, which is specific, as the name implies, it's a secular charity. And you can check out his website. The website is foundationbeyondbelief.org, and they do good work over there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
For Christmas one year, my sister-in-law, who's deeply, deeply religious, was like, listen, instead of giving me a gift, I want you to donate to one of these charities for me, kind of thing. And I looked into some of those charities and I was like, yes, we're providing water to people in Africa. And then I look at their activities, and the activities that they actually list is like, yes, we've been able to build this church within this community when we're giving them water, and they're focusing more on them building the church in that community than actually the water.
Yeah.
The headline on their thing is supposed to be providing water in Africa.
And
it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, that's the thing that really bugs me too, is when these charities get extorted, or the funds get misappropriated, and there's no transparency and stuff like that, to where, and then some person who is doing just fine is sucking off this, like, that is just,
yeah,
it's ugly.
Yeah, sure enough. When churches say that they do all this good, supposedly, it's like charity is a reflection of the failure of the state to provide basic services. It's as simple as that. So you think that you're doing is good. What you're doing is that you're undermining, first, especially if you're an evangelical here in the States, you're undermining the federal government so that it cannot provide basic services. And then you're touting yourself, oh, look at how much good we're doing with our fucking tax-free money. Because there aren't basic services being produced. It's a con. That's what it is. It's a fucking con.
Yeah, I mean, people are greedy, and I mean, just look at it. This is something that I found out. It's not something that I ever really thought of before. But like, if you're a billionaire, you still get Social Security. And most of these billionaires, they don't send those little tiny checks back. They put them into their bank accounts, and it's like, huh? It's just, I understand the system, and I understand, they paid into it too. But they're billionaires. They have too much money to begin with. Like, it just makes no sense to me. It's again, the depression at the state of affairs of humanity that I'm going through right now. And CJ Cox, like, he's still in my comments. He just can't understand it.
Well, can't or won't. Sometimes people understand things and just say words because it profits them. Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's just the system that we do have in place. We have a monetary system, and it's how we are able to trade things and be able to move items around that we need. But I think it gets misused, and it's making that system really look bad. But at a certain point, I do agree that enough is enough. Like, if you're set up for life, and you have it made, then it should be. I would find it admirable if there was billionaires and millionaires who are making things like libraries and things that are helping society. Their money isn't just being tucked away for their family or
I think it's difficult. It's more difficult for someone who is affluent to act in a moral way. I think it is. They have a lot more degrees of freedom and a lot more ways of acting badly. Yeah. But hey, on that happy note, I'm going to close out the show because I got to go to work.
Yep, my laundry alarm went off, so I'll see you guys later.
Take care, everyone. Thanks, chat. Thanks.
See you, no.
Shamala hamala.
Shamla hamla. Take care, everyone.